As a tribute movie to Dame Maggy Smith, I would propose Hot Millions. Yes, she is not the main star of it. However, it is one where she is what do you call that, kind of ordinary is not the right term for it, because usually she plays something outlandish or weird or something like that. Here she plays somebody who you might not expect for her, because let's face it, I think the reason she didn't do very well in Hollywood to start with is that she is not your classical or Hollywood beauty. And the many roles she's had are very often character roles of school mistress or stiff English matron or something like that. And while she does that really well, and then later she got into like older gentry lady, it's like almost no-brainer. Whereas she can do a lot more, and she hardly ever got a chance to be like the pretty girlfriend. And this one she's the pretty girlfriend. So not the main star, but the film Hot Millions is actually co-written by Peter Ustinov for himself, obviously, and I think that gave him the space to pick whomever he wanted for a co-star. And I think that the choice of Peter Ustinov, also not a pin-up gentleman. But I think the combination of Peter Ustinov and Maggy Smith, who are both, by the way, excellent actors. And when one of the actors is really good and the other one is not, sometimes there's a problem. But if they're both really good, they can really play up to each other. And they do here. And they're playing these somewhat unfortunate personalities. She is well-willing, but unable to get anything done at all. I mean, if somebody asks me, and you can see the Eiffel Tower over here, and somebody asks, do you know the way to the Eiffel Tower? She shall send you that way, because that's her personality. We can argue about that. This is 1968, that we can argue about that, but that's the core personality. She's well-willing, she's sweet, but not the handiest. Smartest is not quite the right word for it. She gets turned around a lot. I think that's possibly just literally she gets turned around a lot. Anyway, his personality flaw, and he has one, is that he's good at numbers. He's also good at lying about numbers. And to the point that when we meet him, he's getting released from jail that day after sitting out a stint of, I think, was it cooking the books, I think, some sort of money scam. And he's on the streets of London. He's just been released, trying to find a new job in the new world. He has been gone for, they don't tell you, and short enough that he got to keep his room, or at least the landlady would take him back. So can't have been too long. And he turns out he is rooming next to her. They meet each other in the hallway. That's how it starts for the start. And then he starts looking for a job. You follow him for a while. He starts looking for a job. And now it's interesting. This is 1968. Keep that in mind. And the job he runs into is something with computing. And then you sort of go, hey, is that what I think it is? Oh, yes, it is. It is absolutely what I think it is. Then he starts, because his mind goes straight to larceny, because that's his personality. So he sees computing, he takes the folders, and he sort of says, I have to get into this, and he scams an identity of somebody else, like in a very modern way. That's like identity theft. he commits identity theft in 1968. Before we even knew what it was. And the next one he does, he infiltrates a company and he sets about committing a cybercrime in 1968. It's going, wow! And like these computers are the size of this building, and they have like these big spools of tape going backwards and forwards. That's what you're seeing. That looks interesting, and there's lights whirling. But what he is proposing to do is a cybercrime. He has to commit a caper, because this is actually a caper movie. I didn't realize that when I started it, but it's a caper movie. He sets up an idea and a caper of getting in. With capers, it's a matter of disguises and like cleaning ladies with buckets hitting things, and that's of course what happens. But basically, after he opens blah, he starts committing cybercrime. Actual cybercrime with checks being sent all over the world, which he has to go and pick up, which another story in itself. And all the while, he's doing the dance around this girl. It turns out this girl had a job as a bus conductor, a cinema hostess, like she can't keep a job more than 5 hours. So she keeps coming home every day with, I lost another job. And he keeps coming up the stairs and seeing that happen. And then one day he walks into this new office that he is under a completely different name at because of his stolen identity. And this girl is sitting there as his new secretary. And he's sort of going, hello, hello. And she says, what do you want me to do? And then he says, I just look busy. And then she says, what are you going to do? I'm going to emulate you and look busy. This basically what he's doing is trying to keep busy until the evening so he can do more of his cybercriming. And he has no reason for her, but he does like her, and she has no clue at all. And they sort of do a dance around each other for a while. And I like the way they do their little dance together. It's very simple and very, very British. They're being very British. I mean, Peter Ustinov was not born British, but he knows how to do it. And this guy he plays is just a London lad. And he has now got a nice girl, and the flirt. There's this whole flirting around each other. It's very gradual, very slow, and at some point it is she who asks him to marry, because it makes more sense to have one set of rent than two sets of rent, because her job was she got canned again. That's of course 1968. She got chased around the office by the other boss, the one that wasn't Peter Ustinov character. So she wasn't chased around the office in a way that made it very clear what he wanted, but she could sidestep him. At least that was something. But culture in 1968, and I think some of that has gotten better, but only very recently. Anyway, Mr. Marcus goes on a complete, because he now has a girl and he marries the girl. We don't get to see a wedding, which is rather a shame. So that officially in London and England in particular, you don't actually have to get married. You can just say we're married, and it counts as stuff. So they may have done that. We don't see a ceremony, so keep that in mind. They count for the law. They count as married. So for that at least, and he certainly thinks they're married. And then pretty soon she says, we should maybe move the bed to the side so we have a little room for a crib. And he sort of goes, a crib? What, we need a crib? Oh. Oh. And then he gets cold feet, cold hands, cold brain, cold because he was his little caper that he was doing at the office, that was still going, was a really big caper, he sort of says, okay, how about I go buy a crib and you get a passport? And she says, what do I need a passport for? She says, oh, you should always be able to go anywhere where you could possibly go at any given point. He is going all over the place, all over Europe to get all the checks to get for the money. So he's been going all over the place, so she knows about his travels, but she sort of goes, I'm not interested in traveling. He said, do it anyway. Okay. And she does it because she's a sweetie. And the caper goes fine until it really, really doesn't. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story. Watch it. Peter Ustinov at his best. Maggy Smith at her best. The supporting cast are two American gentlemen who are playing the American gentleman. You have to have those. It is filmed in London, in and around London. In 1968, there is a moment where she has to distract somebody, and she takes this person shopping in a 1968 fashion boutique, which is very interesting for people who like fashion. So you can see the fashion, trying it on, and what that looks like. Filmed on a high street in London. Basically, they're filming through the front window, so you see. Alongside the scene is happening there because there's no studio for this location, and then the other shot is from the inside of the store outward. So it is the actual store. I'm sure it's somewhere we can find it, and that was very interesting. Maggy Smith trying on the fashions. She's very fashionable in this one because she is a young lady in 1968. This is 30, something like 30-ish, and she can wear it. She can wear the hot pants. She wears one ensemble with hot pants and the boots. Oh, yeah. Peter Ustinov is Peter Ustinov. He's always excellent, and I like the fact that he wrote this. He co-wrote this. I think that probably he had the same problem that Dame Maggy Smith had after this. Is you're a sort of type, and what are you gonna play in? So I think that's why he organized a bunch of things himself, and later he rolled into doing like Poirot, like detective stuff. And you can, as a gentleman, you can do detective until the cows come home, and as a lady you can do dowager or something as long as the cows come home, which is what they done. But that's what actors do. Is this is like the detectives and the dowager duchesses, and whereas these roles are very different. I like it that they're both London. He's a London lad. She's a London lass. Interesting factoid is that when he comes around, because misunderstanding, he comes around to her room and she's not ready to let somebody in, but she lets him in. The whole floor is covered with a sewing project because it's 1968. In 1968, because she has no money at all, you make your own clothes. You do have to keep looking fashionable, so you need something new every once in a while. What do? You make it yourself. And if necessary, from something older that was big enough for you to. The 60s fashion is quite tiny with the hot pants and mini skirts. So you can make a mini skirt out of an old ball gown from the 30s. You can make a beautiful mini skirt for your current or a mini dress for your current wardrobe, and it wouldn't cost you anything other than your time. And she's doing it, and I like the details of that. And they have a couple of moments where you sort of go, because this is a caper movie, but it's a kind of a comedy caper movie. And I was going, is this a rom-com? No, it's not a rom-com, because the romance is not that kind of rom-com-y. They have a romance, they have a dance around each other, but it's not a rom-com. And it is a caper movie, kind of, but the caper is not the linchpin of the story, which in most other caper movies is. But it has comical elements. It has like comical without it breaking reality. It's like when Patty, the girl, is an American gentleman has offered her to take her home after work, and instead of driving on to her home, which is not that far away, he's going through the park, and she just sort of sees that happening, and as they travel, he keeps going further and further away from where she wants to, and she keeps going. This is the moment where I say, "Oh God!" She's going, no. She doesn't want to go home with him because there's signs on the road, like things like no entry and stuff like that. You find after like the third sign, there's a logic to it. Like first is like turn back, and then it's no entry, and then it's very funny. Without breaking reality, it's funny. And another weird one, which I thought was very interesting, when you watch a movie, you have like ambient music. And the people in the movie ignore it because to them it doesn't exist. And in this moment, there was the Peter Ustinov character sitting in his place. And you hear there's a flute music coming on, going, yeah, that's part of the score. But no, he's hearing it. He's actually hearing it and going, huh? And then later it turns out she was playing the flute. And in her room there is an old piano which couldn't be moved, but that's why it's in her room. And he sits down and he plays. And they can make pretty music together. I think as an analogy for a couple being able to make good music together, that's pretty good. And I think that's when Marcus Newsifov character realized that this is good. They can make good music together, and that's worth anything. Oh yeah. I have it down as last thing. Very honest cleaners. He keeps going off to old places in the world and comes home, and then she takes his suit to the cleaners, and then the cleaner calls her and says, I found yet another stack of lira or pesetas or something in his pocket. And she says, oh, that's so embarrassing, I'll come and pick it up. And cleaners that keep saying, hey, you found stuff in your they could have, but they didn't. Very honest cleaners. I love it. I can recommend this movie. It is such a fun movie, and I remember that from when I saw it many years ago. This is a fun movie. It's just a rump of funness, and a good way to remember both Maggy Smith and Peter Ustinov. This is some of the best stuff. Without being it's dramatic or highbrow or anything like that. Bit of fun, well executed. And that's my opinion. And I'm sticking to it.